Hello, my name is Scott for SB Gaming. We are back here in Factorio. This is going to be a bit of a different episode since when I recorded episodes 63, 64, and 65, my recording software decided not to record my microphone. It was on a different recording profile, and unfortunately, yeah. So, what I've decided to do, rather than have to restart from, or rather than redoing episodes 63, 64, and 65, since I actually overwrote the save file, I decided to take the video and crunch it all together in a time lapse as you're seeing here, and just do commentary in the editing process. Anyway, I was commenting about the biters. They were coming from across the lake, as it looks like our pollution was extending from across there, and so I decided to head up to Iron Stop 1, and looks like we had a piece of track that ended up not getting placed or got destroyed. We also have a second piece of track a little further up, that one right there, that we had to replace. It got destroyed when the biters came to pay a visit, and I eventually jump in the train and head up to my copper deposit, because I plan to extend the rail a bit, as well as set up a rail stop here in the event or the eventuality that I do set up copper mining here. It'll all be ready and set up to go, so I won't need to do anything else other than to set up miners. And there I shoot off my shotgun. Pretty easy to do. You just accidentally tap the spacebar key. I do that often because by default that tends to be the pause key on a lot of games, it seems, and I'm just used to pressing spacebar to pause, but that's not for Factorio here. Anyway, one biter decides to pay a visit. I throw down a couple destroyer bots, but yeah, I probably wasted some there. I could have only needed to put down one of them, but I get some defenses set up here because they are coming this way. I might as well have a defensive position, and yeah, it'll prevent them from getting past here. And yeah, I take a look at the pollution again, and it's definitely over there in the bases. Anyway, I decide the train stop is a little bit too far away from my turrets where I placed them, so I decided to place down a few more turrets there, and then we jump back into the train. And because my goal is to get back to the eastern defensive position, I driven the train around, and unfortunately, yeah, I didn't take into account that the train that was automated ended up running into my train. And yeah, I rushed back to the eastern position just to park it. Fortunately, the bots there have repair packs, and they repair up my train, no problems. The destruction that you heard was actually my Fuller bots, and yeah. So, with that said, I set up a bunch of miners. I had built them prior to coming out here, and it's intended to, of course, ramp up the iron. And yep, I pay attention to, once again, the biters. My turrets triggered, which triggered an alarm. And it looks like they're actually chasing after me. They kind of know where I am for some reason. Or they're just programmed to go there for some reason. But the biter comes around, and I realize I don't have any turrets on that side of the base. Right, so I decide to, of course, eventually set up some turrets, I believe. Yes, indeed. Set up some turrets, and I just have to find the perfect power placement because, you know, OCD reasons. And yeah, I decide to put them in space every between, but then I mess up my line of turrets, and I kind of put one next to another. So yeah, about that. Anyway, we do finally get the iron onto the belt, but of course it's all being fed onto one side of the belt, so we obviously have to take care of that issue. So I put in a knot to allow iron to be loaded on both sides of the belt. And I'm actually curious, where is the train? The train, not my own train, but oh yes, there it is. And I had a feeling, since all the chests were full, that my train here was only stopping for about 5 seconds at the iron stop too. And since I now am using it full time for mining, I definitely want to get it to stick around longer, because you know there's a lot more ore to load up. And so I throw down some fast inserters, and of course at that point only 2 of the boxes are getting filled. And so I decided to put down a few slower inserters, just so that the iron can actually get to the end of the line rather than being gobbled up by just 2 inserters. But it looks like I put them in? And yes, it looks like I am planning to head down to the southeast, where I had taken out the biters, but I failed to complete the job, and apparently I forgot to put down the rest of the belts. So not all the miners will be actually operating. Anyway, we get to setting up some power, and I have a little bit trouble placing them in. My mouse is either too far away from my character or too close, so of course putting them in ends up being a little bit annoying. But we do get power there set up eventually. Throw down some turrets, and I don't think I really extend power that much more, just because there's not a whole lot of biters. There's a lot of worms. This was crazy worms. But I'm playing around with the inventory. I think I cleared out my inventory there, or at least the tool belt. And yep, taking out some biter spawners, and throw down some destroyers. Rip out almost all of the biter spawners. I believe there is one more. And then I blanket the area of the worms with poison. Collect some artifacts, and then realize, hey, there's some more biters. There must be a spawner there. So we continue. It's pretty much, this is what you have to do when you got a lot of worms. Just run along, throw down poison. Once the poison clears, see how many remain, run again, lay down more poison. And for a medium worm, it's 2 to 3 capsules, at least 3 for a big worm. So you have to do several layers of poison to ensure victory. But at this point, I decided to build a few radars, and I also picked up my turrets, and eventually I extend power out to the coast, because I have this plan. A plan to put my radar outposts on those small islands. Yes, indeed. So the biters can't reach them unless they're spitters. Which in that case, well, yeah, about that. I end up placing the radar, but there wasn't enough room for power. Of course, my reach wasn't that great, so about that. Of course, if the biters did come by, or the spitters, then they would be defenseless, so I end up also setting up a second radar, as well as set up a line of turrets, just to ensure that if the biters do come by, they're not killing off the radar outposts. Once again, take a look at where the map is, and I'm just taking a look to see what our new radar extension is going to be and how much extra space is going to be revealed. But it does look like a fairly big lake, and we'll discover hopefully how big it is, whether it extends far out or if it's just isolated from other bodies of water. But now my goal, I'm thinking, should I go against the base along the coast? Should I go against the base that was been my nemesis, the one I had so much trouble with? But I decide to set up some defenses along this position, just in case the biters come here. I want some turrets here to ensure that if they do try to get past, they get destroyed. Of course, if a massive wave horde of biters end up passing through, then my turrets could possibly be in trouble. Of course, this will be also an advanced warning system. In the event that the biters do approach, I'll be alerted with either the yellow alarm or the red alarm, whether or not they get destroyed or not. I'm still planning. I'm still thinking, do I want to go against that one? Do I want to go against the ones at the coast? Do I want to go against something else? But I look at my pollution and, the pollution's not that bad. My base is pretty much shut down. And it's interesting. Of course, with that said, no attacks. So I'm pretty good. So it's all a matter of which I really want to go against and which I think could be the most effective attack. Ultimately, I believe I had ended the episode, and yep, we take a look at our production numbers, and pretty much we only were producing iron plates, copper plates, solid fuel, and steel. That was pretty much all my factory was doing, just accumulating those resources, using up iron ore, copper ore, and all that. So that is not too bad. At least I'm not overproducing anything. But I believe I ended the episode around now, or I did end it. And we carry on. And I had posed the question initially about which base I should go against, but of course it's kind of unimportant at this point since yeah. So I decided to go against the biters over here, but we have to make our way through the trees and lay down some poison and deal with worms, and lots of worms, a chunk of worms here. And I do throw down some destroyer bots, which do help with the biters. Sweep in there, take out more worms, take out the spawners eventually. There we go. And it's just a grind, just a slow process of making your way through the biter bases. And pretty much for anyone who has watched so far through the series, you pretty much know my tactics. Lay down power, lay down turrets, push, take out as many spawners as you can, lay down poison to take out any worms, retreat, try again. Once you get so far away from your turrets, lay down some power, and repeat just over and over and over again. Overall, it's a tactic that has worked quite well for me. And there I start to use some distractors, and it seems like they're actually pretty effective. They do a lot of damage to the biter bases, although I don't believe the distractors themselves actually take out any of the bases, so yeah, and I died. Unfortunately, I hadn't saved it, so we pretty much have to start from scratch. I think that was where my autosave happened, and this time I don't get my train run over, but we do make it back. And this time I decide to let my train go off and instead build a bypass. Yes, indeed. So any any trains that are going from the copper deposit down to my eastern defensive position, for instance, like my train, when I am going around to different spots, will be able to use this bypass. Set up a couple signals just so that, there's no block issues. I set up one extra miner after a few of them had got depleted, but for the most part, that iron outpost is pretty much done and done. Once it's done, I will probably be pulling everything up and just moving shop. But it looks like this time, okay, I get those belts in, and I'm trying to figure out what is the best way to put down. Oh, and another biter came at me. Yet again. So I decide, of course, set up turrets, and this time I don't play around. I just line of turrets. We take a look at, of course, our loading system, and of course, this time I only place down 2 fast inserters loading the chests, and of course, a set of fasten inserters loading the train. And I try to play around with different ways on balancing the belts, and I just don't find a very effective way. But ultimately it probably doesn't matter. I should probably build some fast belts. That would probably help a little bit. Although overall looks like iron is backed up pretty well, so it's just, you know, one of those OCD efficiency things. But we go back, and actually I had gone off screen and taken out that biter base, the initial one that we had earlier in the episode, because obviously you didn't need to see it twice since you pretty much knew what I was going to be doing. Anyway, pretty much do the same thing as we've done. Lay down power, lay down turrets, and we had started shotgun shell damage, and so I continued on and get shot down shell damage number 6 through some distractors and pull back when our health gets low. And pretty much, if you've watched this far, you've of course seen my tactics. Nothing else needs to be said. We are fairly effective in ripping through the base, and I don't believe I die. I think I had saved at one point. I do run out of substations, which is rather unfortunate. Fortunately, I'm able to pick up a few substations that were not necessary or essential. But we are able to continue the battle, and I believe I ended episode 63 or 64 around this point. I just took out a few more biters, and then shot a few more. Continue. And I died. So that would have been the end of episode 64. We're going into episode what should have been 65. And take a look at for the first time ever, the biters actually attack us there at our oil line 3 base. We've never had an attack there, so it's rather surprising. I end up also off screen between episodes, picking up a whole lot of turrets as well as a lot of the substations, streamlining it, so I had a few extra to push the battle forward. And as we can see, we have 10 substations to play around with, and it's just a matter of doing the same thing as always, going in, and just continuing the battle. Lay down power, lay down turrets, rush in, shoot off the shotgun, lay down poison, and just repeat. Pull back when they get too strong, and pretty much, yeah. It's rather interesting watching it play back at 4 speed, or 4 times speed, and try to commentate on it. Oh, and I got trapped, I believe, and ended up dying there. But that does happen a few times. I might have cut out 1 or 2 of the deaths, just because I pretty much didn't get it very far, and I had to reset back to the last save. But it looks like things are going well for us. We continue to rip through the base, and so many biters, of course. Once again, that was another death. I never ended up. Yeah, I never bothered cutting that death out, but I decided at that point to just pull my turrets back. I wasn't going to try again, And, yeah, I think that's probably why I cut that death out. If I had tried one more time after them, I probably would have cut it out. Pretended that as though nothing existed. The magic, of course, of editing. Anyway, one thing I had done... So we take a look, and I'm doing a lot of probably theory crafting, like, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? A lot of the ramble that I usually do when I make these videos. I'll take a look at the map, have it pause or whatever, and I will discuss my strategy or tactics or thoughts or ideas or opinions, and I rush over, grab a few artifacts, and end up, before I had a chance to get things set up, got aggroed by the biters. So I had to rush back to this base where I had turrets, and yeah. So then I have a few spitters following me, but one decides to stop at the what was it? The radar station and take some shots at it. So that was annoying. I had to rush back and take him out. And it looked like one of the spitters was on the tracks just prior to when my train came by. Unfortunately, I ended up killing it with a shotgun. It would have been cool for it to get run over by the train. But, yeah, it's, needless to say, it never happened. Anyway, I carry on, and I decide to go against this base, which has been my nemesis for the entire game. And I pretty much use the standard tactics of going in with the shotgun, strafing around the base, just peel away the layers of the onion, and of course die or get very close to death quite a few times actually. And I lay down a few turrets, but I don't really depend upon them all that much. For the most part, it's just a matter of staying ahead of the biters and using the shotgun wherever possible, being strategic about how you move and how you attack, saving as frequently as possible. If you ever see a strafe caught in the action, it's usually because I save things, but it looks a little bit more noticeable on 4-speed, as you can see. But I do rip through the space pretty easily. Poison as well as the combat shotgun. You can't really beat that combo. Well, it all depends. Anyway, we continue peeling back the layers and just following, letting the biters chase me around. I'm about as fast as they are, as long as my fusion reactor keeps things powered. I almost die there, my shields run down and go to about half health. I might have been looking at my power armor to see whether I had space for another fusion reactor, so I definitely am thinking about getting a third fusion reactor. That will be on my plans of things to do for the next episode. And as you saw there, I was almost dead. Happens so often. More biters coming at me. I decided to go and go fishing. What better time than in the middle of battle to go fishing? Because, you know, reasons. Anyway, we carry on and finish off these bases in the south. We have to pull back to our turrets once and then sweep around for a second attack. And yeah, once the horde gets larger, we have to pull back. But for the most part, this base is done. It's done and dead. And that is it for this episode of Factorio. My name is Scott for SB Gaming, and as always, have a good day.